You're listening to Speaking Sidemount, the podcast where we talk all things sidemount diving, from equipment, skills, techniques, and sidemount diving expeditions to interviews with some of the world's top sidemount divers. Whether you're new to sidemount, been sidemount diving for years, or just want to know more, this is the place for all things sidemount. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Let's get wet.
Hey, welcome back to Speaking Sidemount. I'm Steve Davis. This episode is brought to you by our brilliant sponsor, X-Deep, and by the patrons of Speaking Sidemount. Huge thanks to both for their support that makes everything you're about to listen to possible. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of two giants of the tech diving industry. Firstly, Brett Gillam, the co-founder of tech diving agency TDI, the agency that I represent, and also of Brett Hempel, who was recently lost in a cave diving accident. Amongst a huge number of cave diving exploration achievements, Brett was also the inventor of the Armadillo sidemount system, the forerunner to many of the modern sidemount systems we use today. It's a sad time for tech diving. Both will be missed. Now in this episode, I catch up for what is the third time with Thorsten Waelde, or Toddy as he's known. I first met Toddy in episode 24 when we did a deep dive into the Toddy-style sidemount system. We caught up again a year later in episode 44 to talk about his Utopia exploration project in Sardinia, which incidentally was only a few months after I'd returned from my own trip there, hanging out with Toddy and the team at Protect Sardinia. I've since been following Toddy's exploits with interest, and when I saw the stunning work they were doing on the Bel Torrente exploration work via a video on Toddy's YouTube channel, it was time to catch up and hear some more. The amazing part of this project is that it's a multi-sample siphon project, as Toddy refers to it, where the cave under exploration has dry sections connected by flooded passages, and the length of the penetration requires the exploration team to live underground for several days, staying at base camps in the dry sections as they progress further into the cave. This creates massive complications to the project, especially the logistics of moving the equipment required, and along with that, the physical and mental application required is immense. Now in this episode, Toddy and I catch up and he gives me an overview of the Bel Torrente project. He talks about the team he's assembled and the skills required before we get into the logistics of the project, the equipment, the evolution of their procedures as they encountered new challenges and requirements at each section. We talk cave geology, we talk the risk and danger of an accident deep in the cave, before Toddy explains how he uses Seacraft Dive Propulsion vehicles, DPVs or scooters, and in particular the new Seacraft GO, which is an amazing new lightweight DPV which is much easier for them to carry across the dry sections as they continue their exploration. We finished discussing the cave camps that Toddy runs at Protect Sardinia, where qualified cave divers can get a taste of these projects by diving into a cave and spending a night underground at a base camp. The cave camps include workshops on how to use dry tubes to take equipment into the cave, and also a heap of time exploring the amazing dry sections of the caves of Sardinia. I got a taste of this when I was there, and I, for one, am super excited to check these cave camps out. All this and much more in this episode of Speaking Sidemount.
And we are recording. Toddy, welcome back to Speaking Sidemount.
Hello, Steve. I'm happy to be back again.
Well, mate, it's great to see you and great to have you on for what is now the third time. And you're actually closing in on Steve Bogart's record, would you believe, of 4 episodes. So you must be up to something super cool. So how have you been, my friend?
So I'm pretty well, very good. Here live in Sardinia. As you know, it's very particular, very adventurous, that's for sure, because there's always something going on. And I have still a lot of projects, and you're getting older, that's sure, but sometimes I said to myself, oh man, I need, I think, 30 years more for all the projects I have in my mind. So, so here in Sardinia, I have to tell you, really great, fantastic. We had a great season so far, lots of cave diving, lots of training and teaching, and particular fantastic explorations. So I had the possibility to push some cave systems here further as we did so far.
Brilliant. And last time we talked about Project Utopia, but Bel Torrente seems to have taken over as the exploration project that you're focused on. Give us a view into what you're doing there at Bel Torrente.
So Bel Torrente is a particular multi-siphon project. I would say so far is one of the biggest multi-siphon projects here in Europe. I take over this project around 2007, something like that. There was another group exploring, a German group in the beginning of 2000s. From time to time, maybe 2 years break, and then they did a little bit further some stuff. They pushed it to around 2.6 kilometers. And already this cave is the first time explored around in the 70s, 80s as well, from people from Germany and Italy and from France. So they did a little bit of diving, maybe around 800, 900 meters in the first siphon. But the German groups, actually from beginning of 2000, they did a project to around 2006. And then I asked them, hey, so what's going on? Is there any possibility to continue with the exploration? Because I can see some leads and there are possibilities to go. And with my friend Rick Stanton together, we decide we want to dive Siphon 2 and have a look about it, what's going on there. And so from 2007 on, my focus was as well building up a smaller team and start to explore this massive cave system here in the Supramonte. So what we did, we explored some dry areas after Siphon 1, which is about maybe 1.1 kilometers in the further length in the direct direction. And afterwards, you can exit and you have a lot of dry caving possibilities. Then you walk over around 200, 250 meters in a dry area. And then we reached Siphon 2. So when we did the dive in Siphon 2, I was mind blown. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. It's just like massive tunnels is going down to 45 meters, going up to 10, 12 meters. And then a sheer drop, almost a vertical drop to around 60 meters. I was just scootering down. I can't believe what's going on there. And in around 60, 65 meters, we just scooter further. This cave, massive diameters and huge potential. And we exit in around 850 meters, 900 meters in length. We exit on Siphon 2 to the surface. And we enter into a massive dry cave section and area and room. And as well as Siphon 2, we found other passages in 50 meters depth, in 15 meters depth, which still we push further, and we are not on the end right now. But that was a major push around 2007 to do this dive and see what's going on there and which potential really this cave has. So I decided to build up a team, and over the years, we start to explore that particular cave system.
Brilliant. Who's in the team that you're working with?
So over the years, there have been changes in frequently, of course, in the team members. But for example, first diver I was diving with was Rick Stanton. So we did dives in Siphon 2. Actually, he was the first one is entering because I had a broken dry suit situation. So I came the next day, and then we pushed further to S3. Then other people from Australia, Tim Fatenby, for example, was part of it. Of course, my team was involved, Bruno Spagnolo. Where Brian Starnes is involved right now. We have people from Bavaria as well. Hubert Zisler did a lot with me in a period of around 7-8 years. And Oliver Schall from Germany, the filmmaker, he did in the last 2 years, he did a film of Bel Torrente, which was really fantastic. And Witold Hoffmann, he is a big part, he's very strong, caver. So he's very good in surveying. And we did a lot of that work so far. It's a smaller team, but I'm building up a bigger team because I have to explain you in details later what is my idea and what is my goal on this cave. But several people been involved in this project, and everybody loved it so far for sure. Some of them are still remain in the project, and others will join in for sure because I need a specialized team at the moment to continue the further passages.
Yeah, I saw Max Farr on there as well.
Yes, exactly. So the last exploration I did with Max Farr, That was the end of August, and we had around a 4-day, or in total was around 5 to 6 day mission, and it was fantastic. It was a main goal of myself to do it right now, just with Max together, and push the cave, because what it needs right now is just a massive logistic situation, and we need speed. So we need to be very, very precise in which equipment we will use and how far we can build up on every siphon, our gear, and how much we can carry on. We're talking about grams at the moment to really deal with that, because the logistic where we reached siphon 6. So we found siphon 6, which was a very, very huge success. On the way back, I said, hey, Max, we have to dive siphon 5, and we have to push siphon 5 because there is a passage still ongoing. And I expect maybe it comes back to siphon 6 sooner or later. But at the end, it was just like completely going in another direction. And the cave started going big and deep. So we stopped in around 30 meters depth, and the cave was still constantly going on. So we just siphon 5 at the moment. We reached in a total length of 1.4 kilometers underwater. So it's just massive. It's massive. Yeah.
And you mentioned Oliver's video, and for everyone listening, I'm going to put a link to the video in there that's on Toddy's YouTube channel, because it is a super high quality video and really well edited and filmed and quite funny. And it sort of shows the story of you narrating from back in base at Protect Sardinia there, but also, you guys working underground and camping underground at various base camps. It'll give you a better understanding, I think, for everyone listening, of each of the stages and the siphons that Toddy's talking about. And that one, I think you got to siphon 5 and had found the new dry cave section, and then had also found the flooded section to the right, which I think is what you're talking about now with the 1.4 kilometers of passage, which was staggering. And let me ask you a question about all of that, because, you're starting to talk about the logistics and how challenging that all is. And it strikes me that the equipment staging is absolutely the most complicated part of the project. It almost pushes the diving into the background in terms of the levels of difficulty. Tell us a bit about how you stage the equipment, how you get it in there, and how you move it through the siphons to the dry sections.
Yeah, so over this period from 2007, we had a lot of changes in the configuration and in the gear, because with multi-siphons, you never know. Every exploration can change the next step of the gear, what you need, right? So the first gear setup we start was clear, was Backmount rib reaver. We just go because we know siphon 2 will be big, and we will use longer term of the diving in siphon 2. So we decide to go with rib reavers in siphon 1, and then carrying over to siphon 2. We did the dive in siphon 2 to just reduce decompression. We build up a bit. And then at the end, we realized, okay, wow, we have to, from siphon 2 to siphon 3, it's around over more than a half of a kilometer of climbing sections, rough terrain, razor sharp areas. We had to rig a lot of ropes, particular to really secure ourselves with all the gear we had in the bag, and pulling all the materials over as well. When we reached S3, it was clear we have a sheer drop. It's just like a vertical shaft around 15, 18 meters in depth. So we had to rig up all the ropes there, the hauling backs, the rigging for that. So it was a work to do. And then we realized soon that a Backmount rib reaver is definitely not a choice for this kind of diving. So after a couple of explorations, we reached the target of S4, siphon 4, but from S3 to S4, we had another 600, 700 meters of dry caving to pass, which are very difficult to walk over. Lots of climbing involved, again, more difficult than from S2 to S3. So we realized, oh man, that's not easy. So we decided in a period of, I think, 2 years to walk just with open circuit tanks, because we believed that the siphons from 3 and actually 4 are pretty short, around maybe 150, 180 meters in length. And the depth profile was easy, around 15, 17, 18 meters. So that was no problem at all. And I was thinking by myself, okay, maybe the smaller siphons will continue. I don't maybe think that we reach a bigger siphon with longer diving ahead of us. So open circuit tank was for a certain time the best idea. And what I personally prefer was 6.8 liters Worthington tanks, the carbon tanks, the combination of course, of steel material, because that's so far a great choice, a great idea, because they are more or less neutral. They are a bit positive, but you can balance it with not too much weight. The amount of the gas was great, 6.8 liters. That's fantastic. Two of them, you just push further. You can work with them. You are under 20 kilos in total. So it was, for a period of time, it was a good idea. But regarding to the diving equipment, when we reached Siphon 5, I was there with Hubert Zisler and Rick Stanton for a couple of years ago. And I saw the entrance of S5. So Rick was first diving S4 and he's just walking over and he saw S5. He watched down with the mask. He came back. I take his tank, rest of the gas. I dived 4, went to 5 because I want to see it by myself. So, and I saw it and I saw the S5. I was clear. Oh shit, that's something different. So I need to rethink, because I'm not sure if this will be a short siphon, maybe can be a long siphon. So it's a risk to take an open circuit tank and then you're actually not coming really further. And as well, it's different to carry gas so far into a cave, because every liter, it's very, very important. And this is for maybe a normal standard cave diver, not possible to think about, because of course, good, you go back to the diving center and you refill the tanks. But the gas for us is just like gold. Okay, because maybe when we do it smart, we can use this gas for several explorations and not just like for one. If you use it for one, of course, you have to bring these tanks out, and that's a lot of amount of work we have to do. So in this case, I decide to switch. In that time, I think it was around 2014, 15, I switched to Sideman rib reavers to start again this dive in S5 with a rib reaver. And that happens 2 years ago when I did by myself the dive in S5. So I had a good buddy, Max Farr, helped me to carry on all my gear to S5. That was really great. So he helped me a lot about that. And when I did the dive in S5, I realized, I just finished all my lines and I measured everything and I reached already 1 kilometer of underwater passages. So I came back with empty reels. I came back with the data collectors and I realized, oh man, Max, we have a problem. So it's not easy to really push that cave, because there's another passage, a side passage, which it continues going on. I'm on 20 meters right now, and still the cave is going. In S5, after 500 meters, I found the exit and I reached into the dry area. So that was not the really problem. I know, okay, now we can work on the dry section. But when I realized the underwater section is as well really huge, of course, the Sideman rib reaver was the way to do. So this is what we did so far. So we did all the work right now, mostly with Sideman rib reavers. But I am in another phase right now where I realize we are actually a bit too slow in carrying in these materials over the dry cave area. So in this case, I need another concept of a rib reaver transportation. So what I'm building right now is a super light KISS-based model, which I carry on the back with carbon fiber housings, super light, 2 times 2 liter tanks, carbon tanks, titanium plates, and pockets for put on the weights inside. Units so far, we are in around 13.5 kilograms of weight at the moment. So this is what we estimate right now. So the idea is that I have as well the harness fixed with a very good strong cover, which you actually use for rucksacking, for tracking, and as well a very nice soft materials in the back. So I can carry on right now this rib reaver on my back, and I can walk with it wherever I want to go. I can climb, I can leave the harness on. So in this case, I save a lot of time because in this case, I just drop the tanks. I put lads out, or some people in the project help me to take the weights out. I walk to the next siphon, put the weights inside, put the 2 tanks on, which are already there, and start dive again. So this is right now as well a strategy which will be interesting, because to really go further and siphon 6, we need speed, we need logistic, we need in every dry cave section, we need a team with 2 people right now, because we have a base camp, what we already built up camp 2, and this will maybe continue for I don't know how long, no? So the choice right now is a very light backmount rebriever. Everything what we do, maybe that's very interesting and pretty crazy. We do everything in a neoprene suit, around 8 millimeters, specialized belt for the body, so a mashed wetsuit. Of course, super good, tough shoes, and all the rest of the materials, very, very light as possible. And this is our next target. So next year in August, this is how we want to do. We try to go light as possible, but with a very strong rebriever in the back.
Yeah, amazing. Is it possible, I'm thinking like the Thai cave rescue now, is it possible to rig the cave so that you've got line and pulley systems that you could use to move the equipment across the dry sections, particularly in the early ones?
So far, we have several areas where we do that, where we have ropes rigged, where we can use hand ascenders, we pull us up on walls. But the most and the fastest technique is spaleo back, tanks in the back, and you walk over, right? So what we did, because normally the side mount rebriever was the best choice, but we had to carry on a side mount, we had to carry on the side mount rebriever, we had to carry on a lot of gear. So what you always had to do was stop, take the rebriever off, put it in bags, and maybe walk multiple times. And that's the difficult part right now, because we realized we cannot stop. We need to have a team that is ready to transport the tanks straight further to the next siphon, and we just going out of the water and just walking over. You don't need to think of anything else. You just drop the 2 tanks, you walk over, you go, and that's it. And I think that's the only realistic way of pushing this cave further, because we just used 2 days to reach the end right now. So we must work in speed and control, of course, but in the lightest and fastest way as possible. So this is where we are right now. We cannot carry on any extra parts. So the best is everything is on the back, light as possible, walk over, jump in the water, and dive again.
Yeah. And I guess at some point you might reach a limitation in terms of how you can do that. I mean, how far do you think you can go now?
That's a big question right now, because we already reach, I think we have around already 6 kilometers. So what I believe from the geology side, we are getting close to a very, very huge fraction. And this area called Cala Cecina. And Cala Cecina is a massive canyon area, which you can drive with a car already, because it's so massive, so big, sheer high cliffs, 300, 400 meter cliffs left and right. And you just drive through this passage. When I did this in the past and I realized Bel Torrente is going into that direction, it was clear for me there is a possibility that the really old fossil part, the fossil cave where we are, this can lead us under this canyon. If this is still going, means that we have more water to deal with maybe longer dives to do, and as well endless long cave system ahead of us, because nothing is really close by, and the water source of Bel Torrente is just tremendous, is a lot. So far the local geologists, they told me, Toddy, you are just like in Mother Earth in the valley, and you have the fossil part. I think you will not stop really on this fossil part. You just go endless. Of course, we don't know. So far, I think realistically, there is maybe a possibility to go further than maybe Pozo Azul at the moment. They are on around maybe 12 kilometers or whatever. So I think so far with all these techniques and possibilities, I would say we can reach maybe 10 or more kilometers in the future. I think so.
Do you think there's a chance that at some point this will come out to a dry cave in the canyon near the fracture, or?
So I spent a lot of hours with friends, with Speleo friends and Speleo clubs here in Sardinia, searching the area all the time, a little bit over the winter time, when we have time and everything is quiet. On certain points, we start to dig, but we realize so far nothing is there. I talk a lot with old shepherds. They know the area well. I ask if they found any walls where the animals are drinking water. Is there any possibility to maybe enter whatever? I have a lot of points where the water is just drainages into the system. So I know the spots, but it's not possible for a human to go through and go deeper in. You always have to try to start to open something. I believe there is somewhere something, but at the moment, it's not realistic. We have a range of about 350 to 400 meters rock above us. So even as well with cave links and as well with echolotes, we don't have any possibility because no system at the moment exists that goes deep like that. So we cannot precisely estimate exactly where we are because we cannot link it and reference it together. We need to go in shallower area. So far, we know the direction is south-southwest. And if we continue into this area, we actually move straight under Colossusine. If we are maybe on the Colossusine, we have maybe a possibility to do some radar locations or whatever, and maybe figure it out where we are exactly. But at the moment, it's just something that you estimate. You don't know, you know. It's just like the only way right now is entering from the sea and spend many, many days inside, try to work hard as possible and come back destroyed for a week.
Exactly. I mean, I carried my gear a couple of 100 meters yesterday to go for a dive, and anyone who's done any sort of carrying of gear over decent distances knows it's a real challenge. So, you know, to be able to accomplish dives over several days where you're walking and carrying gear over dry cave passage, which is not the same as what I was doing where I was walking on a beach. It's certainly challenging physically, isn't it?
Yes, very, very physically. It's like you need to build up a good time before your strength. I do a lot of bicycling, for example. I'm a enduro biker, so I love to be on the motorbike and driving in the mountains. I love to be on bikes and get myself fit as possible.
Sure.
But of course, it's the physical part, but in the other way is as well the mental strength. Over the years, I realized I cannot go with everybody there. So I realized I need special particular persons that do this job. Like Max Farr, for example, he has his mindset. Yeah. He's like going. He cannot stop because he comes from the military background. So he's an absolutely team player. Yeah. Just for example, like that, we have Witold Hoffmann. He's phenomenal dry caver. So if you go with him in a dry cave, he can climb every fucking wall. That's unbelievable. So he can rig everything, whatever you can imagine. So experts in several files. So I have a friend of mine. He will participate in the next project is Dr. Frank Hardig. So he will be part of it there because if something happens so remote, we need someone who has wilderness training, specialized in the medicine. And we need a doctor maybe, for example, for this part, because the risk is pretty high. We really have to take care. So to do a rescue mission in the furthest point right now, I cannot think about that. So it's like it's getting to an ongoing situation. We have to deal with so many things. Just about the camping materials. We build our own dry tubes to balance faster our dry tubes. We're working around with 30 kilograms dry tubes at the moment. We push a lot of tubes right now to S5. And in S5, we have a base camp, which is fantastic. At the moment, we really build it up good. We have good shapes. I have a hammock there. If I come back after a couple of days, I can maybe rest a day or 2 days just in camp 2 to get fit again to dive back in S2 and S1, you know, and carry on all the gear back. So all this gear is very, very dedicated, and I have a really precise list. I have a materials list where I really work on right now. Every gram, we looked at it over the years. We have the best materials so far as is possible. And I think that's the only way how to do a project like that. You need to have a very strong team, very good equipment, completely new mindset of new strategies and techniques. And this is what I do at the moment. This is where my goal is.
Awesome. Yeah, so many things in there. I mean, I was thinking when you were talking about even the depths that you're diving, you know, some of it's very shallow in the sort of 10 to 12 meter range. You mentioned 45 meters and some of the earlier parts going down to 60. So even things like choosing your diluent gases would be important, because I guess as you're exploring, you actually don't know the depths that you're going to get to. So what gases do you use when you're diving?
So at the moment, we keep it simple as possible. So S1 is diving just with air, standard. S2, we go in for Normoxy Dreamix 2135. And then for the decompression, we just stay on it because we don't have so long decompression as long as we drive fast as possible with the scooters. So we can shortcut a lot of the decompression. We have maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That's it, right? But make this fast. That's the game. Siphon free, everything is air. Then we have 4 and 5. Everything is air. Dill at the moment, but in S5, as I mentioned before, we are in around 30 meters. So when we just finished the line there, we decide to go a little bit further, just around the corner, and I saw another drop, and I estimate around maybe we will reach 40 to 45 meters. I would say that. So the next time to go there, of course, we can do this with air. It's a little bit of risk. We don't know if we go deeper or not. Of course, with air, we are a bit limited, right? But we don't have a lot of choices. So I think for my bailouts, I will have air, and as well for the small tank, which I carry on is a 2-liter tank at the moment, I will use air as well. So that gives me quite a flexibility. I hope that after maybe the 40, 45 meter passage, we go up again. But if that's not the case, of course, we have to think another time and we come back with another gas strategy. But the main goal so far is to dive S5, the half kilometer straight through with small scooters from Seacraft. So we will use the new GO. I'm testing it at the moment. That's pretty cool. So we transport the GO, 2 GOs to S5. The plan is to go through, dive through, exit, and we have another around, I estimate, 400, 450 meters of dry caving. It's a bit hard terrain. We have a lot of boulders. We need to crawl underneath. We have to walk over. We have a couple of lakes to swim through. But then we reach the S6, and the major target so far for next year's goal is definitely dive S6. So I believe that the S6 is the continuation of this cave. And that's where I'm focused right now. Not 100% on the underwater passage in S5. So one of the main goals right now is really push S6 and see where it goes.
Cool. Now I want to drag you back to S5 for a moment, because in the video that Oliver did with you guys from, I think it was last year, you found a conger eel inside sump 5, and you commented on the video how remarkable that was. And the question, of course, was how does a conger eel get into a sump when there's several dry passages that you've crossed to actually reach those sumps? That was just an amazing find. What was your thoughts on that conger eel, and have you seen it again?
Yes. So first of all, of course, for the video, a biologist will kill me, but it was not actually a conger eel. It was an anguilla. It's just like a mountain eel or a fresh lake eel, no? But it sounds for us better to use the name conger because it's better for the video.
Oh, that's awesome. So is it still remarkable that it was there, or is it now something that you might have expected to find in a cave system such as that at that point?
No, absolutely not. It is pretty sure it is remarkable. There are other inland caves where sometimes you have a possibility to see an eel like that. But often you have links together, you have connections together. So you know that this kind of animal are traveling over rocks and on land, right? So we know that. But to just see an eel like that in S5 so far away from inlands, it's just like how, you know? So maybe is there any water resource where we can exit or whatever. It has to come from somewhere. It's clear. But the part is where it comes from. So the side passage, which I explored for 2 years, and this year at the end of August, it shows us how big this passage is. It's just like tremendously going. Just the side branch right now is almost 1 kilometer in length right now. And we are in 30 meters and is going deeper. And the dimension of the rooms are 8 to 10 meters. So it's a huge water resource and a big tunnels. I already saw 2 leads, which I didn't explore so far because I was just continuously going on the main lead. So I think S5 is way more complex than I think the first time. I saw the dimension on the main passage, huge and highly decorated. But when I actually found the side branch where I believe the eel was going, and I went inside, I saw this dimension of this S5. So we saw it again. It was fantastic. Max filmed it as well on the way back. And it was crazy, but he showed me as well on the water, and he showed me, look at that, Toddy, I saw the eel again. So we found it again back. So it was fantastic. I said, hello, fella. And told him, buddy, wait, we're coming back next year. And please show us where you exit or enter.
And hopefully the poor thing's not there on its own,
right? Correct. Exactly.
Because I was wondering, as I saw that, and we thought it was a conger eel, of course, whether that passage from sump 5 was going to lead back to the ocean in some way. And I wonder whether that was what you were thinking as well. But I think it turned in the wrong direction, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, it was turning around and it was going parallel to the main passage. So that was the interesting part. So I was thinking as well on this exploration in the end of August, I was thinking, okay, easy. I think this passage will maybe connect to S6. So there's a possibility. That's what I told Max as well. Hey, Max, let's go back. S6 is clear. We don't need to carry on maybe the material here. Let's go back to 5. We continue to dive for 2 years on this passage. And maybe we have a possibility that we link into S6 and we can continue from there. So in this case, we have a possibility to use S5 to go to S6. But when we start to set up the lines and continue to dive and one reel empty, second reel going on, I was like, what's going on? So it's changed a little bit to southwest, and I didn't expect anything. So for me, was not clear what I can do and where to go. I have absolutely no idea. So for me, it was like an unexpected situation, and I didn't have any idea what to do.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the challenges of cave exploration, isn't it? I mean, you've got all these exciting leads that you could follow, and then trying to decide which way that you want to go in terms of continuing. You've now got S6, you've got S5 that's still there to be explored as well. Which direction do you take?
Yes, exactly. I think that's a part of the exploration. That's the fun of it, you know. So the cave at the end, you never know what it's doing, you know. Sometimes you can have theories. You talk with geologists and everything. You think everything will work, you know, but it's just theory at the end. The only way to figure it out is just go and see where the cave leads you, you know. And then what you have to do is you have to adapt to the situation, to the cave profiles, make new plans. And I think that's the challenge of cave exploration, and particular multi-siphon projects, which I love so much. It's just super cool because for me, it's like, how can I go further? And when I reach a limit, it's how to expand that limit. What technique I can use to make better. So my mind is always working on things that I can do better to go further. So, and we are in an area right now, or in a stadium where really detailed materials need to be involved in a project like that, because the cave is doing what it wants to do.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to go and hang with Bill Stone for a little while and talk about their projects in South America.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I had contact with Bill as well in the past as well, and I asked him some questions about the Shaver project, what I did, because one of the team members is involved in the project, Witold Hoffman, and how they do it. They spend sometimes 14 to 16 days underground. So we learned about what materials we can use, what techniques they build up and everything. It's another approach because diving is not really involved there. We have a lot of diving involved, so it's a little bit a different situation. But we had some good chats, very interesting discussions as well. By the way, I support the team with TS side mount systems. they've been able to continue the diving there. And that was great. So just like to give them a help, so it was fantastic.
And a lot of my listeners are cave divers or aspiring to be cave divers. And obviously when you begin in cave diving, you take baby steps as you build your experience and so on. What does it take to be able to dive the diving sections? Let's forget about the dry caving because we can talk about that in a moment as well. I mean, what does it take to be able to accomplish the dives that you're doing?
I think give yourself time and don't make pressure, because you need to learn at first how cave diving, it works in general with the complexity, with the understanding of the hydro situations. You need to understand to learn how a cave is built, and just like going cave diving, every step, maybe a little bit further. And of course, my luxury situation is I'm living from cave diving, right? So my income is built from cave diving. So 95% of my work is regarding cave diving, cave camps, which I can talk a little bit later. But so my life is regard to caves, no? And of course, for me to be in a cave and spend multiple days, 8 days, 10 days, whatever, I don't care. For me, it's like home. For me, it's no problem because I adapt to this situation because I'm so often in this environment. But it needs just like a lot of experience, and as well, maybe sometimes mentors, sometimes people, they take you under your wings and you learn from them, and step by step you grow, because you cannot do that by yourself. You need always people, mentors, they teach you, they give you tips and tricks. You learn by mistake a lot. Of course, this happens with me, but it's very good to work with people. They are specialized in several areas. Right? Maybe one is very good in doing measurements. One is very good in cartography. The other is very good in carrying on materials without any problems or whatever, So it's just like choosing people where you can learn from. So that happens with me in the past as well, right? Yeah. And that helps a new cave diver going further and further. And I have people already, they did training with me 15 years ago, and they are right now part of the team. I go with them to certain points and they are able to do that. And that's nice to see, because you see, he was growing, he went into cave diving. I don't need to look about him. He's doing the job and he's going through. So, and that's fantastic to see, right? Mm-hmm.
And I did an episode, you're probably aware of, 4 or 5 episodes ago with Robbie Schmidtner, talking about the Shun and Ha project that he did with a bunch of amazing female divers. And that's really what you're talking about there, is this mentoring. And I know yourself, you mentioned it a moment ago that you run cave camps. Talk about the cave camps and how that supports mentoring and people learning how to dive siphons and dry sections.
So I think it came from exploration, the idea, because after Siphon 1, we actually did a lot of dry caving. So we explored over 4 kilometers of dry caving. In certain years, sometimes I had years where I just went through Siphon 1 and spent multiple days, 6, 7, 8 days in the dry cave parts, and we did a lot of measurements. So when I did that and I realized how complex this cave section was, we found absolutely stunning, highly decorated rooms, absolutely fantastic speleotherms. A labyrinth. It was just like an adventure park for us. And I was there mostly with Hubert Zistler, Tim Feitenbay, Witold Hoffmann. So we spent multiple days in this area. I think I spent weeks just in that area. But all the time I was thinking myself, wow, how cool it would be to maybe attract cave divers. They have a certain experience into the world of multi-siphon diving or dry caving. So I just checked, maybe this could be a cool spot. This could be a passage to go. So I start to develop the idea with rigging some areas, like bringing aluminum telescope ladders into certain areas and fix them, because for them would be easier, because otherwise it's impossible to climb up. So over the time, I realized, oh, wow, this is just a fantastic way of showing cave divers what's the treasure of cave diving. It's not just like the underwater cave diving part. It's way more what you can learn from cave. And then I started thinking about 3 years ago, I started first projects Last year, I had already 7 cave camps. This year, multiple cave camps. And it's just fantastic because it's a 3-day workshop. So I can explain them how a dry tube is built, how to balance a dry tube, which equipment. I have all the equipment for them. So they just need to bring the toothbrush, more or less, and they have everything ready, right? So we pack the dry tubes, we balance them, we show them how to deal with it. We do SRT, single rope training with them, showing how rope works. And the second day, we start in the morning, we dive inside with scooters, the dry tubes in the back, the tanks on. We reached around 950 meters of cave penetration. We exit, we start to build up the camp, it's super nice. We have already chairs inside. We have all the cooking pots inside, all the materials, rescue materials, medic first aid materials, and sleeping bags and everything. And then we do around a 5 to 6 hour speleo. And in this trip, we show our clients, guests, friends, how caves be formed and what you can see in this beautiful world. And they are already mind blown. We came back in the camp around 6 o'clock, something like that. We started cook. We started drinking a little bit of wine and having fun and enjoy talking about stories from lives and how the day was for them. And just like to see how the people react when they know now I'm staying overnight in an absolutely closed environment. I know I have almost a kilometer to go out, but I have to dive out. There is no other way. I know that I'm in the middle of the Gulf of the RSA and there's no boat, so I cannot swim back. I maybe would stay on the rocks, So for them, it's like crazy in their mind to really staying overnight, in a cave like that. And then, of course, we sleep overnight. We do in the morning another cave trip, and we show them an absolutely stunning, highly decorated area where we almost take off our own clothes, the shoes, everything to don't dirt up something. And then we show them absolutely fantastic speleothems, which you almost cannot see.
Yep.
And this project is like really moving on. So a lot of people have the interest about it. And for me, it's cool because often when we come back, they already write me back, Toddy, I cannot forget this adventure with you. I want to book again next year. And or others say, hey, I went into the closed speleo club right now. So I'm more attracted to dry caving right now. So I learned way more about caves as I just did in my cave diving. So when I hear that, I know that my goal is reached, no? So I know it, first of all, I do some work that I love. And as well, they can earn something so much they sometimes don't get it where they live and as well what they do for work, because they are not maybe so related to outdoor activities as I am, So I can show them a little bit of a different world, a different, more adventure-like world. And that's why the cave camp is so absolutely unique.
Yeah, amazing. And at some point in my life, I will come and do one of those with you. I still recount the story many, many times. I don't know if you recall when I came and visited you in 2019, because I'm a cave diver. I like diving flooded caves. So that was my thing. And was it in Bel Torrente or was it somewhere else? Do you remember where we went to do that dive? You had to talk me into it?
That was a Boomerino.
Okay.
So
let me carry on with the story then. So it was arranged as part of my diving, and I was diving with your guy there, Brian Starnes, who's an amazing dude. And he was a little bit surprised that I didn't want to do that dive. And he was saying, Steve, it's really good. You should do it. I said, Brian, I just want a cave dive. So this dry caving thing's not really for me. And I remember you sitting me down and saying, Steve, come on, you've got to do this. So you talked me into it. And it was just absolutely staggering. And the one regret from the whole thing was, as I was diving in, there's a hydrogen sulfide layer that you go through in the sort of hour or so dive that you go in. And I dropped my camera and my GoPro into that hydrogen sulfide layer. So I don't know if you found it. So for the rest of that amazing dive and experience in the dry cave section, I didn't have a camera to capture what I was seeing, but the formations in that dry section and just the fun that we had walking through there and little climbing areas, nothing too difficult, but I can't even remember the name of the formations. I think there's hallocytes in there. Definitely there's tons of stalactites, stalagmites. It was just staggeringly beautiful and a really great experience. I was grateful forever more to you for talking me into that. And that just gave me a little taste of what cave camp might be like. So if you love cave diving and haven't experienced something like that, then I think it's well worth exploring.
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, it was like, I know exactly what you were thinking, but it was for me clear, I have to bring you there because this is a very cool lifetime experience. And the experience you will have, you will use for your cave diving in general in the future. So for me, it was important that you really do it and understand this is not just like underwater. It's way more, which we have to understand. And this tours helps you out to protect treasure like that and to build something for yourself, for your mind to understand this is just like pure nature. It's beautiful, right? Yeah.
Awesome. So we talked quite a bit as we've been discussing about various equipment. And obviously a lot of us who are cave diving are diving dry suits. And I know the temperatures in the caves there, I think it's 16 Celsius from memory. It's warm out in the ocean, but it gets quite cool as you head into the cave. But you mentioned using wetsuits, and I think I understand why. But let's talk a little bit about the equipment you're using, wetsuits, side mount systems, rebreathers, and carbon cylinders. Let's bunch that all together and talk about each part and why you choose that specific piece of equipment for what you're doing.
So we had a time where we used dry suit for Siphon 1 and Siphon 2, which was okay. It was good. Mm-hmm. But even as well, after Siphon 1, you go out of the water, you have your good rock boots on or particular designed canyoning shoes, paleo boots, pretty tough because you really have to take care about what you wear, and particular the feet are very important. You cannot risk anything, so you need the best materials as possible to walk over a rock turnaround like that. You did this with the dry suit, but the problem is the temperature. Because the temperature in the cave, we have around 15 degree, 14 degree, depends where you are. So for a European cave, this is pretty warm, okay? So with a dry suit, with all the undergarments and everything, and you walk over with materials, you transport gear to a Siphon 2, and you need to come back, and you need to walk this maybe multiple times. Sometimes we walk 3, 4, or 5 times in a row. So you will sweat so much that when you start a dive in S2, you're already exhausted and you lose a lot of important minerals, no? So in this case, it makes not a lot of sense and it's counterproductive. So as well, we changed the plans, strategies. Right now, we always do some setup dives. That means we go in, we transport the gear to S2, but we come back again in the same day, sleep overnight, and then attack in the second day. This strategy helps a lot and works fantastic. But when we realized we can do maybe because always our mind was like S2 is deep with neoprene, maybe this doesn't work, it's too cold or whatever. We always changed, and of course we have the undergarment for the S2, then we can stay overnight and sit around the rock and cook and do it, whatever, but we need a big, thick undergarment. So that was another phase of the exploration. But I sit there, I talk to guys and say, guys, this makes no sense. Right now we have a neoprene to carry on, we have undersuits, we have way too much dry tubes because we need to carry on in the dry way. So that makes absolutely no sense. I will do a complete exploration with a wetsuit. So everybody looked at me and said, are you crazy or what? And I said, no, I will do that. So I found a company many, many years ago. I asked them, hey, I need right now for August, I need a new suit, 8mm. It's a brand from Sardinia and it's measured to exact to my body. And then I did the exploration I had with Witold Hoffmann. I think it was 2 years ago, it was like that. Or I did it another time. But anyway, the second time I said, Vitek, I go again. I go with the wetsuit. And he said, the day before we go, I said, you know what? I change. I use the wetsuit as well. And he's the same brand, no? So when we did it, we saw the time that we can save where the people need to stop to dress up, taking care about it, the suits and everything. So we realized this is the way to go. I realized it earlier. Witold Hoffmann really realized, Toddy, fucking hell, that's the way to go. So from this time on, as well, the last exploration, we did fully with wetsuit. Absolutely no discussion. So the wetsuit is something which is very, very important. It gives a little bit of trouble when you maybe have not a really new model. So this exploration was another small mistake I did was I take a little bit older one, and I had a couple of hoses inside, which I forgot to really close well, and whatever, no problem, I do it. But then I realized when the cave went deep to 30 meters, that's the tricky part. Right now, we did a lot of exercise, a lot of effort. The body is weaker. The cold hit me there a little bit hard. So I was shaking on the way back, and I realized, okay, this is a limit of really, you can have a hyperthermic situation where it maybe is not the best idea. So I know that on the way back, I have dry areas where I can bring back my body temperature. But of course, you lose a lot of energy. So the next strategy, what we do is absolutely, I always have to carry on a new wetsuit, 8 millimeter thick, really, really good, almost not used before. So every hole has to be sealed. I have a particular short trouser, which I put over with a way stronger materials. I use that since a couple of years. That helps me if something breaks. Minimum, of course, the parts are more protected. The body's more protected when you sit somewhere in rocks. So it helps a little bit with the warmness. But I already work with an Asian company and a friend of mine. He developed heating pads for undersuits. So in this case, you can just wear it underneath. You can have a pressure on it, and you already can heat up these pads, which it gives us a certain amount of warmness. Of course, we cannot overheat. Of course, that's not the way for what we have to do, but it gives us a good feeling and a better feeling. So I'm working with this friend right now from Asia to maybe develop some vest or something like that we can use underneath. So this will be another part of the exploration, but wetsuit is the way to go. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it would be like if you put a hole in your dry suit as well partway through. I mean, that would be the end of it, wouldn't it? So.
Absolutely. So we use tear aids. We have duct tapes with us. So we can fix a lot of things. We have aquashoe, but it doesn't really work, particularly in this humidity. So it was not really cool. But duct tape, for example, was great. And as well, tear aids was good to work on that. So we had a couple of problems, couple of issues. But normally with a wetsuit, you can cover it. If you have a hole in a wetsuit, it's not so traumatic as you have a hole in a dry suit. And then, you have multiple siphons to come back and you cannot dry up the thing. The coldness is too much. So the wetsuit is in one way a very, very piece of safety equipment. This is how I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah, got it. And obviously, I mean, you can't swim this amount of equipment into a cave, so DPVs are a massive part of what you're doing, and I would almost imagine it couldn't be done without them. You mentioned that you're using Seacraft. Tell us a bit about the use of DPVs and how that's supporting what you're doing.
Absolutely. So scooters are a very major part. And so in CS, I'm working with Seacraft company together. I'm an ambassador from this company, and they support me in fantastic explorations. And a very cool feature, for example, for me was like using the Ghost. I have a Ghost where I carry on all these materials, all the tubes and everything, because he has the power, he has the push, and I trust the unit. But we use this particular machine right now in the Camp 2. We bring the scooter outside on a rock. We open up, we put the USB connectors to it, and we have the luxury of charging batteries. We can charge in video lights. We can charge in GoPros. So that's an absolutely game changer in this exploration, which we do in Bel Torrente, because the source of charging materials is tremendous right now. That's an absolutely mind-blowing situation. We had to carry on in the past big, heavy accumulators for the headlights, for the helms and everything. Right now, we're working with small batteries. We can charge these batteries overnight without any problem. It almost not drain anything from the battery of this beast. So this is just like, for example, a really, really good engineering solution, which we use in the exploration. So scooters are absolutely mandatory, in particular for Siphon 1, Siphon 2. And as we realize right now, for Siphon 5, the Go is absolute our way to go.
A bit of a play on words. And I'm super excited about the Go. I'm talking to Witold at the moment about acquiring one for myself. So I'm super excited about that. Tell us a bit about the Go. Obviously, it's a lighter, smaller DPV, I guess more suitable for this part of your exploration, given the reduction in size and weight.
Absolutely. So when Witold Hoffmann told me about this project, I said, oh man, that's absolutely multi-siphon scooter. And he was like, yes, that's why we're building it. But it's actually for the sport diving market. I was laughing a lot. I said, yeah, fantastic. Build it for the sport diving market. It's great, but I want to have it for the multi-siphon project. So what this unit is capable of is just amazing. It's just like super light. It's just a bit under 10 kilograms. Just the power, you have a range of around 10 kilometers with, let's say, 2 tanks and a stage or something like that. I already tested. I was almost close to it. So it's great. If you have an average speed, which you don't need more, I think for my project in Bel Torrente, to using a Go in S5 is mandatory because that saves us a lot of time. And time means for us coldness. It means we can go further, but we can go faster back. We don't have this water time. Less water time, better will be, right? So this is the situation why we need right now a scooter to continue the exploration, because already we're diving almost over 1.2 kilometers on the way back on this passage. So the Go will help us a lot to push fast back. We can use it multiple times for sure. The range is amazing. Let's say if we really use it for multiple times, maybe 3 pushes or whatever, the battery, there will be no problem at all because we can easily do multiple dives with this unit. No problem at all. So for me personal, it's a fantastic tool. It's very light. You put it in the speedo bag, you carry an order. The transport team can help us in doing that. So now you can think about a scooter, but maybe 10 years ago, there was absolutely no solution for a scooter. I said, guys, we cannot carry on a scooter 25 kilogram again to this point. It's unrealistic. And everybody agreed, and experts agreed, like Rick Standen and other guys. And we said, okay, that's just a dream, but we cannot do it. Now we have the possibility to do it. And this is what we do next year.
Yeah, exciting. And I think you mentioned the weight of it, which is one thing, but the battery technology obviously has changed dramatically in that time as well. So the value of the scooter, once you get it there, is incredibly increased from what it used to be. And then the other thing that Seacraft have solved, which was my issue, I always loved Seacraft. I always thought they were a market leader, but the issue was traveling with batteries. And of course, being in New Zealand here, that's something that I need to do. And they've now solved that problem. They've got travel-friendly batteries where they break down into less than 100 watt-hour units, so they're suitable for air travel. So I think they've done some fantastic work in developing the scooters from the Ghost, which was a market leader for explorers, now down to a product that's not only suitable for the recreational market, but also what you're doing here, where weight and distance is still a factor. And as I said, I'm super excited about getting my hands on one and being able to use it for what I'm doing.
Absolutely, yes. So I think, of course, with all these new ideas and new technologies, which is coming up in the last years, I think possibilities, they're endless at the end. So as well, when you see the Rib River I'm building right now with a lot of Strauss together, so it's just like mind-blowing. It's just like, wow, these are things that we could dream about for maybe 15, 20 years ago or whatever, for doing things like what we do right now. So everything is faster, lighter, more technologies are involved and more simple sometimes, and it's just like, it's endless. It's just a matter of what your brain and what your body can do, so that's just like the way it is. Of course, there will be a certain end, even as well for me. That's clear. There's no discussion. But so far as I feel strong, very strong, like Max is or whatever, he's like not even 35, you know what I mean? I'm 51, but I'm still there and no problem, you know? But of course, maybe the luxury of I have this capability, I have the mindset, I have this physical strength and the willingness to go further. I think this is something which you must have. It sounds a little bit crazy, but that's why people sometimes can do absolutely crazy stuff. They climb up the Eigenhof one in whatever on the 2 hours, 15 minutes or whatever. It's like that. So it's just something's changing, and I think new generations are coming up with maybe new ideas and new techniques, and I'm just waiting for that to smoke my cigar when I'm old and watch these young boys doing shit like that and see if they can.
Yeah. And I think that's 100% right. And I mean, I think you're going to be able to, when that time comes, and I'm sure it's some years away yet, but you'll be able to sit back with some satisfaction and perhaps you're still at Protec Sardinia supporting them as they continue on to sump 12 or 13 or 15 or wherever they are in that amazing cave that you're exploring now. And I mean, that leads me, perhaps we can close off with this as to what's coming up next. You've mentioned Sump 6. I haven't seen this yet because obviously the video's not there. I hope there's a video coming. But talk through what's coming next for you in terms of where you're going, Sump 5 versus Sump 6, and what the plan is for next year.
Yeah, so of course we did some video footages. We had a GoPro, which we lost a bit, but we had a good luck because we had another camera with us. So we had some footage. We just need the time for me to set up a little bit of video. A friend of mine, he was already part of the exploration, Oliver Schell, which he did this amazing video. He will help me out and he will do some cutting things and everything. So, of course, we are not experts like this guy, but we did our best, Max and I, and we hope that we have any possibility of showing to the public what we did, and Oliver will help us of setting it up. So that's regarding to the video footages and materials. And I'm already in deep planning for next year's mission. So I'm already building up right now on strategic points, teams of 2. So we have in Camp 2 a team of 2. We have after S3 a team of 2. And this will give us a possibility of going in one way through S5. So my goal is maybe doing that in one day, which sounds a little bit crazy, but I think if the team is going before us inside, already doing some support and bringing tanks to strategic points and maybe materials what we need. So I think we are able to just dive, walk, dive, walk, dive, walk. That's the game. So I'm working on that details. I'm working on materials and everything. And I'm looking for a mission of around maybe 7 to 8 days so that we have the possibility of pushing 2 or maybe 3 days in S5 or S6. So what we do is we bring as well materials, 2 dry tubes, which I'm particularly designing with my business partner, Oliver Steinle, from Cyber Explorer. We already build up right now dry tubes with a right amount of materials I can use, but super simple materials, just like for maybe 2 days mission or whatever. And I want to bring this tube to S4 because in S4 we have water sources. We have a very cool base camp area, sandy areas, super nice, fresh waters around, moving all the time. Fresh water is great. So this campsite will be mind blowing, but of course will be just basic. So there's not a lot which we can carry on there, but the main base camp will be in 2 where we have way more food supplies, good sleeping bags, hammocks to really rest because it will be exhausting. But I think on a 2 or maybe a 3-day mission is the next goal in my head. And then maybe we can reach S7, S8 or whatever. I have no idea so far, but we try to push as much as we can for the next year. That's my goal.
Amazing. And when do you think Oliver will complete the video? Coming up soon, or you think it'll be a few months? Or
I think so far, Oliver, he has already the materials. I think he will prepare that. I think maybe in November he has time because he's busy as well. He has his own company. But I think maybe we have the possibility of showing to the public something in November. That would be great. Okay. It will be not like the last time because we don't have so much materials because we just, Max and I, we just did it, which it was crazy enough. But I want to see how fast we really can do and sort out then a strategic plan. But we realized both that maybe in 2 we don't do it anymore because it was for both of us very heavy. It was absolutely hard. It was almost no sleep and then, of course, a lot of work. But sometimes it knocks us out for many hours because we are not able to do anything and then get strength back and do it again. So I think with a bigger team,
now the next step again is the bigger team and strategic teams in certain areas. Then we have a possibility to run faster through and make this thing happen. So yeah, we see.
Yep, brilliant. Yeah, I was sort of asking for timing with the release of this episode, so I think this will come out later this month. So what I'll do is with this particular episode, I'll put a link into the last video, which gets us all the way to S5 anyhow. And you've got some dives in S5, and I love there's a moment in there when you found the passage to the right, which is now 1.4 kilometers, I think you mentioned. So there's a woohoo moment in there when you found that. And so I think everyone will get a really good idea from last year's video. And then when the new one comes out, I'll make sure I put links to that on Speaking Side Mount Facebook page and other social media so that everyone who's listened to this can keep up to date with what happened this year. And we certainly look forward to what's coming next year, mate. It's staggering to be able to watch from afar, and I hope I get a chance to come back and do a cave camp with you as well. So that would be an amazing experience, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think maybe regarding to the cave camp, I have maybe some idea which we can do. If you like and if you're interested, maybe I'll invite you for this camp and we can do some exclusive video in the camp, for example, you know. So absolutely, it would be a pleasure to go with you there, show you this absolutely beautiful area, and as well do with you this experience, chat around at night, you know, and cooking together a good pasta and chatting some adventures.
Awesome.
So it would be a pleasure for me. Maybe we can do something. Maybe we can do a video for your clients and for the podcast. Or
that would be brilliant.
No problem at all. It would be a pleasure.
And don't forget the red wine as well.
Absolutely not. Always around 1.5 liters or in the camp.
Good, allow for that weight.
Yes.
Well, Toddy, thanks so much. It's been awesome to see you again. It's been a couple of years and actually longer.
Yeah.
So 2019, 4 years. Wow.
Crazy.
So that time has flown and we've had a pandemic and everything since then, and we're still around. So it's an achievement in itself, and congratulations on the exploration projects, mate. It's just phenomenal to listen to what you're doing, to see the video and to try and understand what you guys are working on. And as I said, I have a little bit of an appreciation for physically how hard it is and mentally the resilience and toughness that you need to be able to do that. But then the diving skill, the caving skill and everything that goes on top just makes it a stellar project. So congratulations to you and to your team on that. Say hi to Brian and Bruno for me, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Steve, for inviting me again in your episode. Always a pleasure for me. And it's fantastic that the audience can hear something like that, because I always listen to this when I drive the car or whatever. I always put your podcast is number one for me. And there are so fantastic people involved and super cool stories. So I always love it to hear that. And that's great. So you did a great job in general. So a compliment. You did it so many years and frequently, constantly you're on it. Man, just head up for you. You do a fantastic job. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did making it. It was brilliant to catch up with Toddy and hear more about the amazing Bel Torrente exploration project. I, for one, were absolutely stunned by the work and the logistics required to move equipment through the cave and, let's face it, live underground for many days as they progress the exploration of these amazing cave systems. Thanks so much to Toddy. Thank you to X-Deep for their support of this show. And yes, thank you to the patrons of Speaking Side Mount who every month support what I'm doing. I'm really grateful for everything that you guys do to help me with the show. Thanks again to all of you as well, and I'll catch you in the next episode. You've been listening to Speaking Side Mount from www.sidemountpros.com. If you like the podcast and would like to support the show, then why not become a patron of Speaking Side Mount? For as little as $5 per month, you can become a part of the Speaking Side Mount team, get exclusive early access to all of the episodes, and help us to deliver the very best side mount, cave, and technical dive content available. Just go to www.patreon.com/speakingsidemount for all of the details. The address is also on our Facebook page, listed in the podcast notes. Thanks again, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode of Speaking Side Mount.